What's a very disturbing fact almost nobody knows? Story 1. If you get bitten by a human, you absolutely have to go to the hospital right away because the amount of deadly bacteria in any given person's mouth could actually kill you if it enters your bloodstream. If a human bites your dog, be careful. Every full moon, he will put on clothes, try to barbecue, and complain about taxes. Aren't there theories that say how we were going to evolve to have venomous bites? I think we already have. I had a friend who was bitten by a crackhead and he didn't get to the hospital soon enough, so he ended up with many of his organs shutting down due to sepsis. Story 2. When a woman with breast implants is cremated, the implant will melt into goo. It drips to the bottom of the furnace and needs to be cleaned up once cooled. I wonder now, what happens to metal rod implants, pacemakers, etc.? Pacemakers have to be removed and metal implants just stay in and get tossed after. Story 3. As a cancer researcher, I was fascinated to learn that the most common cancer is lung cancer. The majority of the patients were, of course, smokers, but that's not the worst part. The second biggest cause was secondhand smoking, usually from a close relative or spouse who was a smoker. So millions of people are unknowingly leading their relatives, children, and spouse towards death because of their smoking habits. Story 4. It used to be believed that babies as old as 15 months couldn't feel pain. As a result, doctors would perform surgery without anesthesia. Doctors used muscle relaxants on the infants to prevent squirming, essentially paralyzing the babies for the duration of the procedure. How long ago was this? Reports indicate that this continued up until the 1980s. As an infant in the late 80s, I fell and split the top of my scalp open. Local doc refused to numb my skin because according to him, babies that little, I was maybe a year old if that, don't feel pain. I'm very glad I can't remember back that far because it would probably have really effed me up. This is ridiculous. My daughter dislocated her shoulder at like 9 months and she screamed bloody effing murder. Yeah, I'm sorry, doctors, but this seems like a really easy thing to test. Pinch a baby. If it cries, it probably feels pain. Holy crap, this is really upsetting to learn. Story 5. At any moment, a nearby star could possibly become a gamma-ray burster and point a jet of radiation at the Earth that would vaporize us instantly. Math says a gamma-ray burst located 100 light-years away that aimed at us directly would generate the energy of 100 Hiroshima bombs per square mile across the entire exposed surface of the Earth. Anything caught in this blast directly would be vaporized instantly. It would also instantly boil the oceans and rip the atmosphere off the planet. It would end all life and leave the Earth a charred cinder in space. And it is 100% impossible to see coming since it's moving at the speed of light, because gamma rays are light. I'd be okay with that, I think. You never see it coming, and it only lasts a fraction of a second. There are far worse ways to go. I'd rather not know and just be gone. No terror, no pain, no frantic calls to try to tell all of your loved ones anything. No leaving pets behind that will die without you. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't seem too bad. I feel bad for the half of the planet not facing the burst, since they'll probably experience a much worse death. Mom, pick me up, I'm scared. Just to make you feel better, astronomers only detect new gamma-ray bursts every single day. Story 6. Got an unusually high rate of birth defects, cancer, and other horrific maladies in your city's population? Surprise, there's a good chance your city is located on or near a Superfund site. Story 7. The first face transplant was for an 8-year-old girl named Sandeep Kaur, who got her entire face ripped off by getting her hair caught in a thresher in 1994. The parents came in with her face in 2 pieces in a plastic bag. The transplant was a success and the girl grew up and is studying medicine. And if you've ever wondered what a face torn off looks like, they have photos of it that aren't bloody but very disturbing. Here you go. Serious question. Is it a transplant if it is your own tissue? Isn't that just a reattachment or autologous transplant? I think it'd be called an autotransplant instead, but I could be wrong. I feel awful for that poor girl. Good on her for marching forward with life and dedicating it to such a noble pursuit. Story 8. There's a type of planet called rogue planets that follow no orbit, so it's entirely possible that we have a Jupiter-sized ocean hurtling through space at 40 times the speed of sound, and we will likely never see one. Story 9. Encephalitis lethargica causes you to slowly survive but not live. After bouts of deep sleep where patients can be woken very easily but fall immediately back into the deep sleep, they are left with post-encephalitis symptoms. The main one being that their minds are fully aware and conscious, but they can't physically function. A bit like locked-in syndrome, and they display extreme apathy. They even know they are displaying apathy but can't express any emotions. So they are completely stuck until someone throws a ball at them, which they can immediately catch. Or until someone holds their hand and walks alongside them. Then they can suddenly walk. Otherwise, nothing. So bizarre. Sounds like a college freshman. Story 10. Rats can fit anywhere their heads can fit through. The rest of their body is collapsible and they have sort of hinged rib cages. Story 11. Approximately 2,100 kids are reported missing every day in the U.S., or 1 every 41 seconds. On the bright side, most will be returned unharmed. On the bleak side, the survival rate very rapidly declines over time. On the even bleaker side, in the cases of missing young adult men in the U.S., there's a fair chance a missing individual will be ruled deceased after a rather short search with minimal evidence. Even if no body is found, generally it's labeled as deceased due to natural causes, i.e. drowning in a nearby source of water, getting lost in a nearby woods, just getting lost anywhere and dying, after which the search is completely abandoned. Yeah, the whole 48-hour rule is pretty disturbing. Mission goes from rescue to recovery terrifyingly quickly. Even though abduction is top of the heap for bad scenarios, it surprises a lot of people that a good portion of those missing kids are special needs children that literally just wandered off into the world. And as you said, die somewhere alone. I can see why parents look into locators and other ways to keep tabs on their kids' location. Yeah, I always feel weird about those. Like, it feels like it's invading a kid's privacy and stuff, but at the same time, losing a kid is something I just can't even imagine going through. I couldn't hardly blame a parent for wanting a locator, but at what age do you get rid of it? Story 12. Non-avian dinosaurs did not go extinct immediately at the asteroid strike. There would have been a period where the survivors kept on slowly declining in numbers, starving to death before being able to mate and produce offspring. Long article, but have fun reading about this pond filled with stranded Cretaceous sea creatures that was created minutes after the asteroid hit the Yucatan. Story 13. There's a type of mushroom that can grow on small bugs and control them, cordyceps. It has hundreds of strains, including ones that can hijack ants, small spiders, and even tarantulas. If it's any consolation, mammal bodies are far too hostile for cordyceps to survive in, although most insects and other non-mammalian smaller animals are vulnerable to cordyceps, although it would have to be an adapted strain to be able to incubate in its non-native animal of choice. Story 14. If your group of friends is comprised of 5 or more people, chances are at least one of you will die before you're 40. Story 15. Organophosphates, including the chemical weapon sarin gas, work by inhibiting your muscles' ability to relax. Your muscles basically constrict and can't unconstrict, causing what feels like a muscle cramp through your entire body, your arms, your chest, your eyes, your tongue, everything. It most frequently kills via asphyxiation because you can't exhale. Surviving means a permanent, irrevocable loss of motor function, even with rapid medical treatment. Also originally discovered while chemists were trying to make a more effective insecticide. I'd say they succeeded. Yeah, I'd say that counts as disturbing. Also, odorless and colorless. Sounds like a horrible way to die. Don't forget, while this is happening, you will also be peeing and crapping yourself while vomiting. The way we are taught to remember the toxidrome, collection of poison symptoms of organophosphates, is sludge, salivation, lacrimation, crying, urination, diaphoresis, sweating, GI upset, crapping yourself, emesis, vomiting. All of these body functions are controlled by muscarinic receptors. These little guys receive signals from the brain to do all the stuff I mentioned, except in a controlled fashion. Organophosphates just turn off the stop control. Looks like I'm not sleeping today. Thank you for the comment. Sleep tight. Wow, you always hear about chemical weapons, but my brain just thinks like acid vapor that melts you or something. But it turns out they sound way, way worse. This is the kind of crap I expect to read about in disturbing sci-fi books or something, not reality. Story 16. The Yellowstone caldera, which if it were to blow could decimate most of the planet, moves almost as fast as your fingernails grow. Story 17. According to the FBI, over 40% of murders go unsolved, meaning if you get killed, there's a pretty good chance the person who killed you will not spend a day in jail. Bad news for you, good news for me. I think about the likelihood of a murder being solved in the small town where I live sometimes. For example, say when 911 gets called after the discovery, it's not going to be some TV CSI where the detectives is like, but what do I see here? This hair is from a rare breed of Mexican cat that's only sold as one exotic breed pet shop. And then they go to check sales records and track down the killer. Here would be more like our one and only fat-butted cop shows up about an hour or so and just sort of bumbles around contaminating the crap out of any possible evidence, not doing any good at all. And if by chance a large department actually stepped in to do some investigating, the scene would be garbage. I could murder all damn day. If it makes you feel better, small town and rural police actually tend to solve a higher percentage of murders for a variety of reasons compared to their big city counterparts, though there are obviously exceptions. Story 18. Owls can't be choked, which means that someone had to try and choke an owl on more than one occasion and fail. Yes, harder. Woo-woo. Story 19. There are 8 nukes that are missing all around the world. Oh, that's actually not all of them. According to this, there's a grand total of 51 nuclear weapons lost in the world, 40 Russian, 11 American. One of them is apparently half a mile off the coast of Georgia, and the city of Savannah is within its blast radius. I often think of just how scary nukes are. The only way I can comfort myself is by remembering that I live in Minnesota, and I feel like nuking us would just be too out of the way for most countries. Don't any of you in the comments dare correct me on that either. Story 20. Ants farm aphids like we farm cows. They protect them from predators and then eat a few every now and then. Story 21. A toddler's adult teeth are right below their eyes. I just looked up a picture of a toddler's skull, and all I gotta say is, what the actual F? Oh crap, so did I. I've always wondered. Does something fill in the areas previously occupied by one's adult teeth when they're a child? Or are those areas more or less hollow voids in our faces as an adult? Bones fill that area in. The bones growing are what pushes the adult teeth down and into the mouth. Story 22. There's 21 to 46 million slaves living right now. Story 23. My local Benihana removed their glory hole, and everybody I've talked to about it is pretending that it never existed. The weirdest part is that the next closest Benihana still has their glory hole, so it's clearly not a corporate decision. There is so much what the F in this statement, I don't even know where to start. I love that you say the next closest Benihana still has their glory hole, as though 1, it's natural to expect more than one effing Benihana in a metropolitan area, and 2, glory holes are just a thing Benihanas have. Look, you sit at the cooking table thing, see an onion volcano, get a shrimp tossed in your mouth, then toss your D through the glory hole. It's the Benihana experience we all crave. Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Story 24. A vitamin D deficiency can make you lethally self-destructive, and deficiencies among adults is very common, like more than 50% of the population in the US. My doctor says that where I live, Northern Ontario, they don't test for vitamin D deficiency, they just treat for it. Because everyone here is deficient. How does this work? Lack of sunlight. All the gamers and Northerners are suffering right now. Story 25. One of the first symptoms of heart disease can be sudden death. Story 26. In 1977, the average life expectancy in Cambodia was 18.91 years. That's because the Khmer Rouge killed anyone who wore glasses, because that meant they knew how to read and therefore were a bad intellectual. Story 27. I'm late, but the average adult male has a biting force high enough to rip someone's throat out with their teeth. Found Rick Grimes. Story 28. Due to fresh drinking water being so scarce on the Galapagos Islands, some bird species, such as the Galapagos hawk, have adapted by drinking the blood of other animals. The original Gatorade. Why is it that anytime I hear about the Galapagos, it is something about the turtles? Why are we not talking about vampire hawks? This feels like an issue. Story 29. Around 17 milliliters of human blood can substitute for an egg in baking. Finally, I can make a decent souffle for my vegan girlfriend. Story 30. The Romans used to torture people by having goats lick their feet. Goats like salt, so they would soak their feet in salt water. Eventually, the goat's tongue was rough enough that the skin would wear away, then you'd have a wound with salt trickling in. At first, I thought you meant that they would soak the goat's feet in salt water. Gamer goat's bath water. Story 31. The dolphin who played Flipper committed self-termination. Heard he caught a nasty virus. Then there was the ever-present football player Arist. Story 32. On average, about 30 people die in the U.S. annually in elevator-related incidents. This is my worst nightmare. If you really want to lose sleep at night, consider elevators at Houston's St. Joseph Hospital, which have a history of injuring people, including decapitation of one surgical resident in 2003. Elevators are still the safest mode of transportation by a long shot, measured by how many people use them and how few accidents there actually are compared to that. Yeah, most elevators actually have so many safety features in place that they tend to be okay, except in the old building I used to work in for a place that produced motorcycle equipment. The elevator in that place was literally from the 1910s. It bounced and made sounds that would make anyone afraid, and we still used it constantly. Story 33. There are strains of CRE bacteria that are resistant to all known antibiotics. Story 34. I've said it on here before, but it still disturbs me to think about. Moray eels have a second set of jaws and teeth inside their throat. They latch on to prey with their primary jaws, and then the second set can move forward and either latch on and pull the prey down their throat, or eat away at larger prey without having to let go. Creepy as F. Story 35. Turkeys love the taste of their own kind so much that they will cannibalize themselves while they are still alive. They're the Cinnamon Toast Crunch squares of the meat world. Story 36. Hidden Valley Ranch is owned by Clorox. Story 37. The sun dies in about 5 billion years, but Earth will be habitable for only another 500 million years because the sun's luminosity increases gradually, turning the planet into a dead, scorching rock relatively soon. I mean, if it's that soon, I don't even see why I'm getting settled in here. I'm not getting attached to a planet that isn't going to be habitable for even a single giga-year. Story 38. Up until the 1800s, dentures were usually made out of dead soldiers' teeth. Story 39. As recently as the early 1800s, people ate parts of corpses, believing them to have medicinal properties. Blood, powder ground up from the human skull, and human fat were all thought to be cures for various ailments. Arguably, it still goes on today with the practice of consuming placenta for its dubious health benefits. There was a fad for eating mummies. It turned out that there's a limited supply of mummies, so people started making mummies for other people to eat. Story 40. If you were to put the entire lifespan of the universe from the Big Bang to the final heat death onto a 24-hour clock at the universe's current age, estimated 13.8 billion years, we would not have reached the end of the first 30 seconds. If you were to go into the far future past the point where there are no more solar systems, the planets have either been destroyed or become rogue planets, there are no more galaxies, everything either being swallowed up by black holes or being ejected from the galaxy, no more anything of normal matter due to proton decay, and no more black holes due to Hawking radiation, even here at this point, you would have not reached the 12 o'clock noon on our universe clock. The universe will spend most of its life as a dark, cold, empty void. You would be unlikely to find a single surviving subatomic particle in an area the size of the current observable universe, estimated 98 billion light-years across, until the background temperature reaches negative 460 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 273 Celsius, 0 degrees Kelvin, at which point entropy wins, time becomes meaningless, and the universe remains in a cold, dead state for all eternity. Sir, this is a Wendy's drive-thru. My goodness, has that much time passed already? I feel like I've wasted the first 13.8 billion years. Story 41. You are more likely to die on your way to buy a lottery ticket than you are to win the lottery. Story 42. One of the princesses of Ukraine liked to push in the soft spots on babies' heads. Story 43. Bedbugs have needles for a D and stab the female since females don't have a hole. Imagine getting stabbed during intercourse. You mean without having to pay extra? Story 44. Veterinary nursing has one of the highest self-termination rates of any profession. Story 45. There are over 200 dead bodies on Mount Everest, and they're used as waypoints for other climbers. I'd say the amount of trash people leave there is also pretty scary. And human waste. There's so much human waste from people climbing Everest that it's tainted the local water supply of villages at the base of the mountain. Hey folks, can we just stop climbing Mount Everest? Seriously, I just looked and over 6,000 people have climbed it. You aren't special for doing it anymore. Story 46. There's a species of spider that can swim. There's a species of spider that rolls itself into a bowl and goes around the desert like a tumbleweed. That sounds a little adorable, actually. Story 47. If pigs get fed meat, they start to cannibalize and eat each other. Had to harvest them early one year because of it. Story 48. Bayer, the pharmaceutical company, used to be called IG Farben, and were the ones who produced the Zyklon B chemical the Nazis used in the gas chambers of the concentration camps. Story 49. The United States accidentally dropped a nuke in North Carolina, and it was found hanging on a tree, luckily not detonated. You hate to be the person to discover that. Hey, hon, what's that up in the... Oh, crap. Oh, crap, oh, crap, oh, crap. Story 50. As once said by Arthur C. Clarke, we're either alone in this universe or not. Both possibilities are equally as terrifying. There's no maybe. One of these possibilities must be true. Thanks for the correction, the angriest bagel. Story 51. I think it might be a decently common fact, but it disturbs me so much that I'm going to say it anyway. Less than 5% of the ocean has been explored by humans. Less than 5% of the ocean has been explored by humans. I would guess that the 95% remaining is likely to be water too. That's what underwater people want you to believe. Story 52. When your dog chews a squeaky toy and plays with it, they enjoy it because it reminds them of killing a small animal. Story 53. There's a slight chance that the universe ceases to exist in the next moment, anytime. Fine by me. I just hope I can get a good table. A table at the end of the universe? Yeah, unlikely. Those reservations are probably booked out for the next, I would guess, 42 years? Story 54. There are people out there now being held captive somewhere, whether it's for intercourse, ransom, or simply because their captor is bat crap crazy. Story 55. That there's people out there who get aroused by the thought of being or actually being furniture. Proceeds to cosplay as a effing wardrobe. Story 56. Diamonds are extremely common. Just every diamond mine known to man is privately owned, and they keep them in vaults and only let small amounts out at a time. Story 57. The worst way to die is probably by an open stomach wound because your stomach acid. It slowly corrodes your body while you bleed out. Story 58. For every 50 pounds overweight you are, you lose an inch of your D. So I'm like 50 pounds underweight. Where's my extra inch? The overweight guy ate it too. Never in my life have I been more motivated to lose these extra 30 pounds. I'm hitting the treadmill after I finish recording this video. Story 59. When you're reading this, a person dies. Everyone stop reading this post! Story 60. Thomas Edison electrocuted an elephant. They'll say, "Oh, Topsy," at my Topsy. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.